All right. Hello, wise women. This is Jennifer Nassi, Body and Soul Clarity Coach. I am here to kick off our first ever virtual live women's circle. I have been running an in-person women's circle now for almost 6 months, and it has grown, and the women have been having amazing experiences. And I realized that for a lot of women, we are missing this connection and we are missing this piece that, we really want that sense of community, that sense of sisterhood, that sense of support, and as I mentioned, connection. And while I love being able to bring that in person, I think there's a quality there that is hard to get online. I feel like this needs to be bigger. This needs to reach more women in more places, especially those who might find themselves constrained either by time, just logistics, finances, whatever it is, that there is a way for you to connect in this way, in a meaningful way, that you can come together with other women and laugh and learn and grow and experience and get that support. So, welcome. I am so incredibly excited to have you here. Now, tonight, with this first women's circle, I really just want us to be able to talk a little bit about my vision for what I'd like this to look like. Of course, as people come on live to the circle, I'd like to hear from you about what you are looking for in a community of women. I always bring things that I want to share and talk about and discuss, but this is meant to be an organic process as well. This is meant to be something that's going to grow and evolve over time, and we get to create it together. How cool is that, right? All right, so a few things about me. For those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Jennifer Nassi. I am a body and soul clarity coach. What does that mean? Really, what I do is that I help women find that elusive balance in their body, in their relationships, and in their life. I help them get really clear on who they are, what their desires are, how to nourish themselves, what works for them in their life, so that they can live a life that is full of passion and purpose. They can feel like they're living authentically. They're truly embracing all of who they are. That is my wish for you. And that is my mission on this planet, is to help empower women around that, to help them take back their own sense of power and ownership over their experience. So if you hear me talk about empowering your inner wise woman, that's the name of the women's circle that I run here in the Denver metro area. That is the name of the retreat that I run. It is the name of the mentorship program that I do. There are a lot of reasons why I do that, because I feel like we are often disempowered when it comes to trusting our own judgment, when it comes to really, following our intuition, allowing ourselves to, pursue the path that maybe others would not choose for us. It can be really, really hard to do that. We get a lot of messages from experts in our environment, from family, from friends, from loved ones, from acquaintances, from people in our work life, that we don't know what's best for us a lot of the time. And we lose sight of that inner wise woman within. I know I went through that experience when I was first growing my business as a holistic health coach, and I was coached into really focusing narrowly on skin and psoriasis issues. Now, you can read more about my backstory on my website, which is jennifernassy.com. But in a nutshell, psoriasis has been a part of my journey. It's an autoimmune disease. It shows up in the skin. There were a lot of other things going on with my body at the time that were breaking down, but that has been a part of my journey. And I've been able to heal that over time by making a lot of shifts and changes. And this coach wanted me to focus on that because, you know, it was something that I'd overcome. It was something that was a part of my story. It was something that people could connect to. And I remember at the time feeling in my heart that that was not where I was meant to go, at least not at this point in my career. But she was the expert. She knew better than I did. I was paying her a lot of money. You know, I was giving my power away to her. And because of that, I spent a good year molding my business into what someone else thought it was supposed to look like. And you can imagine it didn't go as well as it could have. I am sure if I had embraced it, if I had been 100% behind it, I could have grown it, you know, 10 times to what I did. But because I had, you know, really didn't have the passion behind that and had given my power away in that way, it just wasn't working in the way I wanted. So it took a lot of reprogramming for me around how to trust myself, how to trust my own intuition again, how to really tap into that sense of power within myself. And once I did that, a lot of things started to change for me in my life, in my business, some really amazing shifts. And now when I support women, I get to help them do the same. So my goal around all the work I do, whether it's in my newsletter, whether it's in creating this women's circle together, whether it's in the programs that I run, it really is focused around empowering your inner wise woman, connecting you to who you are at your core, helping you clear away all the other stuff that's in the way, and really hone in on what it is that you need, what it is that you desire, and where you want to go with it. Okay, so I just wanted to share a bit of my mission and vision with you as we start building this women's circle together. Now, as part of that, you know, the in-person women's circle that I run, we get together once a month, and that's absolutely lovely. My goal for this online community would be to get together once a month as well. That might take a little time for us to get there, but it's something I'd like to work towards. I think it's important to have that consistent support and ability to connect in that way. As part of this, you know, this is a part of the bigger community that I'm building and the bigger work that I do out in the world. And so at times I am going to share with you other opportunities, other things that are going on, because some of you are going to want more support. You're going to want to learn different things. You're going to want to take it further. You're going to want to connect in different ways. I want you to know that wherever you are at and whatever you are ready for, I honor that, I respect that, and I am just thrilled to be able to connect with you in this way. And so whether that's, you know, you're ready for a mentorship program, or you're ready to do, you know, one of the other classes I teach, or whether that's just in our women's circle and we get to come together once a month and connect that way, whether that's in the Facebook group or through the newsletters and e-zines that I send out, whatever it is, wherever you're at, that is where I welcome you. Okay, but I just want to give you that heads up that sometimes I am going to share some of the things that are going on, because there are going to be things that are going to meet the needs of certain people who are participating in our group at different times, depending you know, on where they're at in their journey. Okay. All right, so as we are starting to see people pop into the circle, I would absolutely love, I'm going to write a little note. This is kind of a fun feature of the program I use. I would love for you to share a little bit. Let's see, please share where you are from and what you are most looking forward to in the women's circle. Okay. Let's see if it's going to pop in there for me. Come on. Hopefully it should put a little note in there for you as a reminder as people join us as we go along. But in case it's not showing up, you should have a little chat box where everyone's going to be able to connect with each other, see each other's comments as we're spending this time together this evening. And I would just love to hear where you're calling in from. That's part of the beautiful part about technology. For as much as we try to put healthier boundaries around it, it certainly can open doors in places where there haven't been doors before. And one of the most beautiful parts is that we get to connect from all over the place. So if you can, pop in there in the chat box where you're from and what you're most looking forward to or what you're most hoping to get out of a women's circle, because as I mentioned, there are definitely things I bring to share, exercises I love to do to help you grow and learn and move forward on your journey. But this is also a co-creation. This is something that we're going to be building together. And so I want to know from you, what is something that you are going to be the most excited about, the most eager to learn about, the most eager to get support around? All of those good things. All right, so while we're doing that, I've shared a bit about myself and about my mission and my purpose and my vision for this group. And I'd love now for us to be able to just take a few minutes to really feel present and connected and in our bodies. I know that, oh, you know what? I just figured out why that wasn't working. There we go. So Kathy is calling in from Westminster. Oh, Loch Bewley, Colorado. Lindsay, hi there. All right, and I'm hearing, let's see, trying to move forward into self-love. Absolutely, that's absolutely beautiful. Looking forward to connecting and learning from other women. Yes, most definitely. Trying to see if it's gonna let me go down any further. It doesn't look like it. Okay. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing those. Oh, in Texas, we have someone calling in from Texas. Excellent. Checking out what's going on in a supportive place. Wonderful. Oh, it is just absolutely wonderful to have you all joining me this evening. Thank you. Thank you. And yes, I am all about creating a positive and supportive space. That does not mean that you can't bring things that you are struggling with. That's part of the purpose of creating a supportive community, for us to be able to, hi Suzanne, Suzanne just put her name in there too. To try and create a supportive community, part of that is being honest and open and vulnerable around what we're struggling with and what we really need support with. The thing is, we can share those things and we can respond to those in a really positive way and in an empowering way. You're going to hear me use that word a lot because, again, that's really core to the work I do, right? And so that, I love that you said that, because that is really a big part of my goal around this women's circle, is creating a supportive place for women to go. One that does feel positive, that one that does leave you feeling uplifted and filled up again when you're done, right? All right. Well, thank you for popping in there. We'll see if others join us as we go. But I am happy with our small group too. That is just fine, but I do want to start diving into some of the things that I'd love for us to talk about today. Now, I know for a lot of us, as my British mum would say, we run pillar to post, right? We are all over the place. We are constantly bombarded by friends and family and kids and obligations and work and. So I want us to just be able to be fully present for a moment. What I'd like you to do, I would like you to just close your eyes. You can sit if you're in a chair, or if you want to find a place to lay down for a minute while we do this, that is fine as well. We're just going to take a moment to reconnect with our bodies and really help ourselves feel present and here. Okay, so allow your eyes to close. I'm going to attempt, we will see how this goes. I'm going to attempt to put on some relaxing music for us while we do this. Let's see. There are certain things with technology that I am still figuring out. So hang on. Gonna let me play it? Yes. All right. I won't do it too loudly because I want you to still be able to hear my voice. But all right. So please just close your eyes.
So to begin.
Oh, that is no. Well, she's telling you to close your eyes too. Hang on. Let's get this sorted. We need one that does not have talking. There we go. All right, let's try this again. Go ahead, close your eyes. You can put a hand on your heart and one on your belly. When you're breathing in, I want you to feel your hand pushing out. You really feel your belly filling, pushing your hand out. Then fill up your lower lungs and your upper lungs. You know, you're all the way up. You're going to really take beautiful deep breaths. When you don't think you can go any further, see if you can just stretch it a little bit more. And hold it for a moment before you slowly exhale. And feel your belly just sink back toward your spine and relax. I think so many times as women, we feel like we need to suck in our belly, right? Tonight, I want you to just let it hang out. Relax, feel your power there. Feel that strength that resides there. We also often are used to taking really shallow breaths. I know when I'm working at my computer, which is more often than I would like, sometimes I'll catch myself not breathing. I'll just hold my breath. And how often do we do that? So we want to give our bodies a chance to reset, to get out of that fight or flight space, to fully relax and feel supported. You're sitting in a chair. Feel the chair fully supporting your body. Really let go. Feel yourself completely supported. The same if you're laying on the floor. Feel that floor fully supporting your body. You don't need to hold on. You can fully let go and relax and allow yourself to be supported. With each breath, I want you to welcome in a sense of peace, of lightness, letting go of whatever you've carried through the day that isn't serving you. And filling up that space with feelings of love and light. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes. Move your shoulders. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. Let out a nice big exhale. And if you'd like, let us know how you're feeling. You can type it in to the box. Are you feeling more present, more relaxed? You know, what was that experience like for you when you put your hand on your heart and your belly? Did that, create any sort of sensation for you? For me, I find that just very centering, very balancing. I love doing it when I lay down to go to sleep at night. It's just something very simple you can do for yourself, right? Okay. Go ahead and pause our music for now. So I hope that you're feeling a little more present, more in the moment. I encourage you that if you haven't turned off your phone, to do so, or to turn it on vibrate, shut your email, close your door, really set yourself up to enjoy this time that's just for you. I can see that Kathy mentioned she's feeling more tuned in. Suzanne mentioned she's feeling more peaceful. Wonderful. What a lovely thing to be feeling toward the end of the day, right? Make sure you have your water, some tea. Excuse me. Perfect example of needing to take some water in right now. Now, I love that Suzanne mentioned wanting to move into self-love. I think that's something that is a struggle for most women for a lot of reasons. One, we're fairly well trained to not focus on ourselves and our own needs, right? We tend to put the needs of others before our own. But also, a lot of us were given messages throughout childhood, or even just in our environment, that parts of us were not okay. Whether it was in relationships that we had that left us feeling a bit insecure or unsure of ourselves, whether that was in trying to figure out our passion and purpose and being told, oh, you can't do that, or you'll never make any money in that, or you can't be successful. Whether it's something that we've told ourselves, we can be our own harshest critics, most definitely. There's a lot that can come up around self-love. If you've gone through any health challenges, weight challenges, any sort of physical challenge, that can bring up a lot of issues around self-love of our bodies as well. And part of what I want to do tonight is an exercise that I found really powerful when we did it in the women's group last week. That's here in the Denver metro area. And in fact, that honestly is what pushed me to get this online group going, because it was such a beautiful exercise. And I thought, oh my goodness, I need to be able to share this with the women who couldn't come, right? Who can't show up always for the live women's groups. And there has to be a way to reach more women. And that's where you come in. And I'm so glad you're here for this. So what I would love, if you can, get a notebook and a pen or a piece of scratch paper, whatever it is that you are wanting to use to take notes. So go ahead and get that now. And I'm just going to grab, hang in there, a couple of my resources that I want to refer to tonight. One is, if you've ever heard Louise L. Hay, she's got a lot of really inspiring books out there. You Can Heal Your Life is one. It also was made into a movie. She has lots of affirmations, lots of different things she does. But I have one of her books, and I was flipping through it the other day, trying to look for inspiration for the group. And I opened to this page, and guess what was on it? I love how things work, right, in divine timing. Love is the energy from which all people and things are made. You are connected to everything in your world through love. And that's Brian L. Weiss. He's a medical doctor, but does a lot of personal growth stuff too. I mean, and what better way to be connected to that world through loving ourselves, right? When our wells are filled up, when we feel connected to ourselves, when we feel that love, we can then give from this filled up place, instead of what often happens where we're trying to give from a really depleted place. And that leaves us feeling run down. It can leave us feeling resentful. It can create a lot of challenges for us. And I think part of this battle too, which we'll be able to go into as we move forward in this women's circle together. Part of it is that we are trained to think that taking care of ourselves is selfish, or we can be in those patterns of, once I finish all this other stuff, then I'll finally get to take care of myself. Then I'll finally get to look at these things. And how often do we get there? A lot of times we'll finally get done with whatever it is that needed to get done. And then that's when our body breaks down. That's when we get sick. That's when, things start to fall apart. Or it just gets filled with new stuff. And we really don't get that opportunity to take care of ourselves in that way. So that's something that I think is really important at looking at. And then also it is in how we look at ourselves and love ourselves. For those of you who don't know, I'm a Reiki master teacher. And I love looking at some of the philosophy that comes with that and how we can apply that to our life and different things. There's a lovely book called Living the Reiki Way that has an exercise that we're going to do. I'm going to tweak it because that's what I tend to do. And I'll tell you why in a moment. So you've got your pen and paper. And what I want you to do is be as honest as you can and write a description of yourself. So these are going to be what you perceive to be your strong points, your weak points, the positive, the negative, everything from I'm tall, I'm short, I'm a good cook, I'm a horrible singer, to I'm grumpy, I'm kind, I'm funny, I'm ornery, I'm super logic-brained, I'm really emotional. Whatever it is, it can go through your abilities, your attitudes, your beliefs, okay? And you can do this. For me, when I did mine just as a list. I just bullet pointed a list. I just quickly wrote them all down. That you might find easiest, to just list some words, list them all out, okay? And I promise we're going to do something really fun with this in a few minutes once you've had time to write some of these things. So I want you to be honest. I want you to write down all of these things that make up who you are. How would you describe yourself? What would you write down for yourself? Okay, so we're going to take just a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes or so, to go ahead and do that. It's a great time to refill your tea, get some water. I'm going to put on a little bit of music again while we do that. I might turn off my camera just for these few minutes so you don't have to stare at me while you're trying to think of things. So let's go ahead and just take a few minutes and really think about, what makes you you. Okay, so as you continue working on this, really push yourself to come up with more, some out of the box ones. Those are the ones that I find are the most fun. But also, if you wouldn't mind, just post a little note in the chat box and let me know how you're doing. If you feel like you're fairly complete, if you feel like you'd like another minute, another 2 minutes, just give me a heads up of kind of where you are in the process. All right, Kathy says she's done. Excellent. All right. So if you're still finishing up, that's okay. You can continue to add to this as we go. But here's where I'm going to change this exercise a little bit. In the book, it talks about, wanting to put a check mark next to all of the words that are positive and affirming. And then it talks about wanting to put an X next to all the words that are disapproving and negative, and about crossing them out. Here's how I feel about that. And actually, why don't I'm going to let you see me while I talk about this. Here's why I want to change this part of the exercise. To me, crossing out the ones that are negative says to me that they're wrong and they're not supposed to be there. And I don't agree with that. I think that part of loving ourselves is being able to see both the positive and the negative and being able to embrace all of it. And so tonight, I'm going to show you a way to start doing that, because I don't think those things that are perceived negative necessarily are. I think a lot of times we can reframe them and we can shift them and we can build support around them. I think it also paints this unrealistic picture that we are all supposed to be perfect all the time. And you know what? I've got a lot of negatives on my list too, right? It's who we are as humans. We all have strengths. We all have weaknesses. I think that learning how to embrace both kind of the light and the shadow is where our power as women really comes into play, where we really start to be able to reclaim that and move forward in big ways in our lives. One of the things that I teach in my mentorship group is the Chinese 5 elements. And part of the reason I love that system, when we look at that from a more energetic perspective and how people are built elementally and all these different things, is that it's not a question of good or bad, positive or negative. It's more of a question of in balance or out of balance, healthy expressions versus unhealthy expressions, things that are a strength and things that maybe aren't. I think that is a really important piece of the puzzle when we're trying to move towards really embracing all of who we are and living a truly authentic and vibrant life. So what I'd like you to do instead with your list is I want you to put a little check mark next to the ones that you perceive as positive, and maybe instead of an X, maybe just put a dot next to the ones that you perceive as negative. And then we are going to go through those and start looking at them from a bit of a different perspective. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I know that Suzanne is still wrapping up. Like I said, feel free to keep going with this as you start doing your check marks and your dots. You can continue adding as we go through this process. I know, Suzanne, you also mentioned you can't see your chat anymore. I'm not sure why that would have happened. Let me take a peek. I'm going to just turn it off and back on again and see if that helped you. If anyone else is having a challenge with that, please let me know. I'm not entirely positive I'll be able to fix it during our call this evening, but I certainly can look into what might have caused it so that we can avoid it for next time. So just let me know if you're still having trouble with that. All right, but otherwise, I want you to just take a moment, go through your list, put a check mark next to the ones that you perceive are positive, and put a little dot next to the ones that you perceive are negative. And so I will give you a minute to work on that as well. And you can just give me a thumbs up in the chat box if your chat's working. You can give me a thumbs up when you're done with that. Otherwise, you should be able to send me a message. You can let me know that way if for some reason your chat is not working. Looks like Kathy's chat box is working fine. Suzanne, I'm seeing your test message coming through. So it looks like, just so you know, your chat messages are coming through. So I'm not sure why you can't see them, but I can see them from my end. Yep, Lindsay, I can see yours coming through as well. And Kathy says she can see them too. All right, so as you finish going through your list, now what I'd like us to do, we're going to look at some of those ones that are perceived as negative in a couple of different ways, okay? So the first thing I want you to look for as you go back through your list, when you read those words or phrases that are perceived as negative, I want you to think about whose voice that is. Because sometimes it's not ours. It can be, but sometimes it's not ours. So for an example of this would be on my list, I have a couple of things, and what's interesting is they can be similar and yet fall on opposite sides of the positive negative perception spectrum, right? So I have spiritual on my list, which is a perceived positive thing. But then I also have woo-woo on my list, and I had marked that down as a negative. Now, when I went back through my list and I was thinking about it, and it was like, well, whose voice is that? Where does that come from? Because do I think being woo-woo is a negative thing? No, I don't. But it's a term that people tend to use for things that they think are too out there, for things that are hard to define or understand, for things that don't seem rooted in logic. And guess where that voice comes from? That comes from some of my close family. That comes from some friends who don't always understand all of the work I do. It can come from parts of our culture that don't embrace that more spiritual side of things. And so that term is thrown around. So I had to go back and look at that and say, wait a second, is that really a negative for me? Is that really a problem? You know what? It's not. It's what I perceive is a problem that other people have with part of me. And that is outside of my control, and I have to be able to let that go. Because the reality is that's more about them and their journey. And that part of myself is a part that I'm actually very comfortable with. And the part that gets uncomfortable is when it becomes uncomfortable for other people. But that is something that I want to let go. And my guess is that you have ones on there as well that fall into that category, that maybe are other people's voices, other people's perceptions of parts of you or your interests, or it can be your assumption about what people will perceive, right? So I want you to look through that lens and see if there are any that stick out to you. And if you are feeling comfortable enough to share, then of course I would love that. And if not, I understand that too, and that's okay. I'll give you another example from mine. So another one of mine, again, I have things like loving, kind, emotive are all very positive. But then as one of my negatives, I have sappy. Well, wouldn't that fall under emotive and like expressive and empathetic and all these really positive things? Well, where does that come from? Well, the reality is I cry when I watch Folgers commercials. I cry in almost everything. Is that really a problem for me? It's not. That's just a part of how I express myself and how I connect to things. But it is something that I perceive to be an issue for others. And again, that's one of those where when I look back at that, it's like, you know what? That's actually not a negative. That's just part of who I am. And that's a part of me that doesn't need to change. Maybe the way that I talk about it does. So maybe I'm going to focus on the fact that I'm kind and compassionate and empathetic and emotive. But I might embrace the fact that I'm sappy too. You know what? That's not necessarily a negative thing. And it's not belonging. That negative attachment to it does not belong to me. So it's time to let that go. Okay? So give yourself a minute or two or three to look through that list. Look at those ones you put a dot next to it. You can read them out loud. You can think them to yourself. But see if someone's voice pops up. With the two examples that I gave, there are very specific voices that I hear. And it can be helpful to identify where that's coming from in order to start letting go of some of those things that we carry around in terms of how we view ourselves. Okay, so take a couple minutes to go ahead and do that piece, and then we'll come back together. And like I said, if you're feeling brave, go ahead and share. And if not, that's okay. But I would love, part of our process in this group is, in order to grow and support each other, it's also helpful to share our processes as well. Okay? All right. So here we go. Go ahead and look through and see what voices come up. Some of them might be very familiar and some might surprise you. Okay. So now I want you to go through your list again, and I want you to look at the other so-called negative ones that are left, and I want you to look for the ones that are fairly easy for you to get support around. The ones that are ones that you can look at and go, you know what? Yeah, like that's just something I'm not very good at, and I'm okay with that. Like that's all right. So an example of that for me would be cleaning our house. I'm really not great at keeping up on that at all. And you know what? Odds are that's not going to change anytime soon. And that's a part of me that it's okay. And, we work to do the best we can. Something I can do around that would be to ask for more support from my family, from my kids, from my husband. Part of it would be to save up, and budget to have someone come in and help, when that's possible. So that's an example of something that, that you might have similar type things on your list. That again, it's not the end of the world. Like we all have our strengths and we all have things that we're not as great at. And some of these are ones that you can get support around, right? So maybe you don't love having to do the grocery shopping, or maybe you don't love cooking, or maybe, you're really not a great dancer and you're okay with that, right? Like what are the ones on there that you can sit and say, yeah, that's me. And I'm all right with that. Like, it's okay. I'm okay with that being a part of who I am. And I recognize that that's not where I'm strong, and I love myself anyway, right? So those are ones that you can, either you can write a little something next to it around how you're going to get support, um, something that you can do about it, and it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't always have to be financially based. For example, if we don't have it in the budget to have someone come every week to clean our house, which right now we don't, then yeah, how can I get more help? How can I work in a better schedule so that it's easier for me? How can I get more support from my family? What are things that I can do? What are things I can put in place that will be relatively easy and will work for my life right now? One of my other areas of struggle, and I share these with you because, again, we all have them, right? And I want you to get some ideas, and that's part of why I would love, if you're comfortable, for you to share a bit too, is that we can get ideas from each other, right? Even if we're not struggling with the same kind of thing, it can help trigger some ideas for us, right? So one of the other areas I struggle is that I am constantly horribly overcommitted. I love to volunteer for things. I already, volunteer in our kids' school. I volunteer at a local art center. I help run the Derby League that I participate in, plus the business I run and my kids and. It's very easy for me to get overcommitted. I love learning, so I sign up for all kinds of things because I want to learn stuff. And, that is something that I can work with. Like, I know that I'm going to have a tendency to do that. I know that that's part of my nature. And how can I plan for that? How can I make sure that I'm only doing a certain number of hours of volunteer work a week, and I then have to say no, or can it wait till next week? Or how can I set time limits around when I'm doing emails and things like that for Derby, or when I am signing up for classes, how many I take at a time, when I have the time to do the studying, how can I structure that so that it doesn't tip me into that point of overwhelm? So I can love myself for that. Being overcommitted that is a sign that I'm really engaged and I want to be doing things and I want to be helpful and I want to be learning. And those are all really wonderful qualities. And that's where it gets back to that looking at things from a point of view of balanced or imbalanced or healthy or not healthy, right? Because there can be really positive qualities to that, but it can easily tip over into an unhealthy expression of it, right? So look at your own list. See if there are a few of those that you can pick out. You don't have to go gangbusters, just pick one or two that you can see, like, yeah, I could really get some support around that. I could get help around that. I could structure things a little bit differently so that I don't feel that way as often, or it feels more imbalanced for myself, right? So take just a minute to look through your list, pick one or two that you want to focus on right now, and make a little note for yourself around how you're going to support yourself with that piece, right? And then we will come back together and we're going to go through this list one more time. And I think by the end, my hope is you'll have a very different perspective and feeling about the list you wrote than when you initially wrote it all down. Okay? Okay. So far, you've gone through and figured out which ones are triggered by other people's opinions or perceptions, or what you assume those opinions and perceptions to be. So hopefully that awareness can help you start to release some of those and not feel like you have to own them anymore. You've gone through and you've looked at what are some ones that you're just okay with, like, yeah, this is just a part of who I am. I'm not great at it, and here's how I'm going to get support around it. Now I want you to look at what's left. And this is the part I think that gets missed so often when we talk about doing things like affirmations and really trying to focus on the positive. There's a lot of value in that. But what can happen is that we don't really believe it, right? We're telling ourselves that things are perfect and they're great and it's wonderful and everything's fantastic. And then back in here, these little gremlins are going, no, they're not. You still do this, you still do that, that's still wrong, this is still wrong. And it can kind of implode and make us feel even less successful and less happy. And I think, just as I mentioned at the beginning, that to me, this is about embracing all of who you are, the shiny bits, the not so shiny bits, all of those things. This is part of our work too, is embracing these spots where we're still struggling. And you want it to be, we want to take it out of that all or nothing space. We want to take it out of the completely negative space, for sure. But we also don't necessarily want to jump to the it's all hunky-dory and rosy and perfect space, because if we don't actually believe it, then it's really, really, really hard to actually get there. So we want to embrace both. And I'm seeing Suzanne Perfect. Suzanne was just sharing that one of her struggles is that she's usually late. That's something I can tell you as well that I struggle with. She mentioned give herself more time and shower at night, right? And what a luxury that could be. And you take your shower in the evening, you're not feeling rushed, you can really nurture yourself, pamper yourself, and then you have those few extra minutes in the morning. Suzanne also mentioned she can see her own chat, but no one else. I'm wondering, Suzanne, if that's because you couldn't see it for that period of time. I haven't had anyone else chime in for a little while since you're the last test chat that you sent. So it could be that no one's posted recently, and that's why. So fingers crossed that that's what's happening, and that the other gals will get chiming in, as well. But I will be sure if they do to comment on them too, so that way you can at least hear what's going on. But thank you so much for coming forward and sharing one of the strategies that you're going to use for yourself. I think that's wonderful. So I want you now, when you look at what's left, like I said, we want to come out of that all or nothing place, and we want to honor both. We want to honor where we are now and also where we want to go. And so what I tell my clients is I say we want to add the and. So if let's see if I can think of something. I'm just looking at my my list. Oh gosh, I can be horribly distracted and unfocused, and kind of jump from one thing to another and change my mind really easily, and that can get very challenging, forgetting where I want to go. And I can really berate myself around why can't I be more focused? Why can't I be this way? And I'm sure a big part of that is connected to the overwhelm, which I'm working on supporting myself with. And wouldn't you know, when I'm not feeling as overwhelmed and I'm taking care of myself, I can focus a lot better. But I'm just pulling that out as an example. So if that voice is coming up in my head around, gosh, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just get this together? I'm going to add that and say, and I'm working on it. I'm working on not being so overwhelmed. I'm working on clearing up any clutter so that I can be more focused. I'm working on clearing off my computer desktop so that, you know, it's more organized and I'm not as distracted. I'm working on these things. So yes, I recognize that this is where I'm at right now, and I'm working on it. And I've made a lot of progress, and I know that it's going to get easier. You know, whatever that little cheerleader needs to be for you, your words might be different and your stuck points might be different. But just start practicing adding that and, because I think what happens when we try and just squash it, sometimes that voice becomes even louder, right? Because we're just ignoring it and we're trying to pretend like it's not even there. And then all of a sudden it can rear its ugly head in a really big, painful, uncomfortable way. So I would rather acknowledge it, love on it, say, hey, I know you're there. I know that this has been something I'm struggling with, and I'm doing my best, and I'm working really hard to have that not be such a big issue anymore. And I love myself anyway. Right? So I want to be able to honor your time and start wrapping up our group for this evening, but I have a couple of things before we go. One is that I hope you found this helpful. I hope that you enjoyed it, that you got something out of it. If you have a moment, I would love to hear, you know, in the chat box, or you can send me a message. If your chat isn't working or you prefer it to be private, let me know. Like, what was your biggest aha, or what are you taking away? What did you most appreciate? What would you be most looking forward to for next time? If this is something you really enjoyed, you know, would you invite friends? Would you help see our community grow? If this is something that we can get more women into and can grow, then it is something I could see doing every month. And is that something you would be interested in? You know, please give me feedback, because that is going to help us, like I said, really create this together. What did you think of the format? You know, it can be a little challenging figuring out ways to hang out online. You know, we can do a conference phone call, but then that feels a little impersonal, but you can hear each other. Whereas with this, we have the chat box, which normally is working fine. I'm not sure what was going on with that tonight. But we can chat with each other. You can see me. I can share my computer screen with you if I have stuff to share with you. And it's possible that we can get your videos working as well. I've got to figure out how to play around with that. I didn't want to mess around with it too much tonight in case it messed things up for us. But give me feedback. I want to make sure that this is valuable for you, that this is serving you well, that you're excited about it, that you really are eager to help this community grow and to come back and continue supporting and connecting with each other. That's something that's very important to me. So please, please take a minute or two and do that for me. Suzanne asked, can I see you? I can't. With Google Hangouts, there are certain ways where you can turn your video on, and then I can see you, only for a limited number of people. But that is something we can play around with if that is something that you feel would be fun to add to the women's circle. Okay, I can work on figuring out how to make that happen. But tonight, no, I can't see you. Let's see. So what else did I want to share? Oh, I have a quick message to share with you before we wrap up that I want you to be able to carry forward. But also, please pop into our Facebook group. Let the gals in there know what you enjoyed about it. You know, it would be lovely to see that community getting more active and growing. If you don't know where that is, because I know some of you might have come to this call from other groups and things, I will pop that up on, I'm going to see if I can pop this up on your screen. It should be showing up now. So I don't know why the picture's not showing up, but that's the link to go to our Facebook group. It's just a nice space, again, to be able to stay connected, to support each other, to ask questions, to comment on things, to really just continue uplifting each other. So go ahead and click on that link. It should open in a new window for you, so you don't have to worry about losing your connection with the call right now. But that's a lovely way to stay connected. Other things to let you know, a couple of things on the horizon. One is actually happening right now, which is the mentorship group that's getting going. That is my flagship program. That is when women spend, you know, this year they're spending 10 months with me in an intimate group, and we're working on building and developing intuition. We're working on the Chinese 5 elements and learning how to understand different types of energy and how they show up in our lives, how to recognize patterns, how to recognize when things are out of balance and how to bring them back into balance, all of those good things. The mentorship gals also get access to the cleanse that I run and the hormone course that I run. And I mean, it really is, it's really a pretty amazing program. If that's something where you're in a position where you're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I've been looking for right now, then email me, because I'm going to be closing registration most likely at the end of this week. So in just a few days. So shoot me an email. You can email me at jennifer@nasi.com. But let's chat and we can make sure that's the right fit for you. Something else that's coming up in May, we have our retreat coming up, which is absolutely phenomenal. It is at Sunrise Ranch outside of Loveland in Colorado. It is farm-to-table food. It is 300 acres to explore. It is a labyrinth to walk. It is your Reiki level 1 training and learning how to work with energy in your own body and with those that you care about. You know, it's really focused on self-care and learning how to apply the Reiki principles in your life. You know, the women who attended in the fall just left, you know, feeling so much lighter, so much more peaceful, more connected. They really had an amazing time. So that's coming up beginning of May. I think those are all the big things happening right now. So please know, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, that I am honored and excited to connect with you wherever you're at and whatever you're ready for. And if that is in the mentorship group and we talk and connect and it's the right fit for you and we get to spend the rest of the year together, that's amazing. If it is in our women's circle and we get to connect once a month and grow and support each other that way, then that's amazing. If it's in our Facebook group, I will love to see you in there. However you are ready to show up, I am ready and excited to receive you and to be here with you. So please, as I share these things, you know, if it's not your time, if it's not the right fit for you, do not worry. Know that I am happy and excited to have you here. And if it is something where you're like, oh, that sounds like what I'm needing, that sounds like the support I'm looking for, that sounds like what I'm ready for, then know that I will share opportunities for you to be able to get more involved. Okay. As we wrap up this evening, so there's our Facebook group link. I'm going to take that off, so click on it if you haven't gotten in the Facebook group yet. I realized that I should probably let you know where you can find the information on the group, the mentorship group that's going on right now. So I will pop that up for you. Okay, so you can learn more there. There should be a link for you there. There will also be information on how to contact me on that page. Or like I said, you can email me, that's no problem. And as we wrap up, something fun that I like to do, and you'll hear me talk about these more, I use a lot of different tools when I'm connecting to my intuition. And one of the tools that I love to use are oracle cards. I also use tarot cards. Around that, I kind of have two feelings about it that I want to share with you. For some people, when they look at those kinds of things, they see them as being guided by something bigger, right? A higher power. They think of divine intervention, you know, that's how they're getting their information through these cards. And, you know, from my experience, from how I work with them, I definitely see elements of that. What I want you to know, though, is if this is very new to you or that's not where you fit when it comes to your intuition and how you feel you get guidance and all of those things, they can still be a wonderful tool for reflection. When we look at tarot cards, I'm not using those this evening, but when we do, you know, they tell a story. They tell the human story. They tell, you know, the story of our experience, what connects all of us. They talk about archetypes, right? The mother, the father, the fool, the teacher, you know, all these different roles that we play in our life, all these different paths that we take, these different points that we're at in our journey. And so at the very least, they offer a really great opportunity for reflection. Now, oracle cards are slightly different in that they don't have a set story. They don't have a set number of cards. Really, it's up to the individual artist and creator to create that story, to create, you know, what they want it to be about. So I have one that's geared towards self-care. I have one that's geared towards healing. I have one that, you know, is a bit different and much more artsy and interpretive and creative. You know, they can be really fun to play around with. And it's sometimes fun to just pull a card and see what you get. And like I said, you could think, okay, well, this is the one I'm meant to see today because that's what my guides are sharing with me. That's what my, you know, my higher power my higher self wants me to know. Or you can look at it as just, here's a really great opportunity for me to reflect. When I teach and when I work with clients, I try very hard to make sure that this is about you and this is about what works for you. So I want you to be open and I want you to be willing to try things. And I also want you to make sure that it's the right fit for you. So I want you to know that wherever you are on that spectrum, and you might not even know where you fit on that spectrum yet, and that's completely fine, that it's totally okay wherever you are. But I just don't want people to easily dismiss this tool because I think, again, at the very least, it's a really great way to reflect and connect. Okay? So the one that came out for me today when I was thinking about our group and this first women's circle tonight, this, by the way, comes from the Healing deck, which is by Amy Zerner and Monty Farber. And they're all affirmations for mental, physical, and spiritual wellness is their focus. The one I got, which I did think was quite perfect for today, is called Transform. And what it says, I don't know if you can see the picture, but what it says, I change my life by transforming myself. Right? And here's what it has to say about that. Just as an earthbound caterpillar transforms into a butterfly and flies away, we must use our time on earth to become ourselves fully and beautifully. The meaning of your life is to give your life meaning. What a beautiful thing to reflect on as we wrap up for today. You know, I think about that, and I think about how it talks about becoming ourselves fully, right? In the e-zines I've sent out this month, I've talked a lot about self-love, about how I love making February about self-love. Really, every month should be about that. But it's a nice time to focus on that when we can typically be more focused on, romantic endeavors and things like that. But how can we become ourselves fully and beautifully? And to me, the exercise you did tonight speaks to that, because becoming ourselves fully does not mean leaving part of us behind. It means embracing all of us. It means embracing the things we're great at, the things we're not great at, the things that keep tripping us up, the things that are helping to move us forward. It means embracing all of those things, embracing our struggles and looking at them from a new perspective of, what have they taught me? How have they served me? Even in how challenging they've been, even if I would wish that certain things had never happened, they did. And so what have I gained from that? What power can I reclaim? What can I look at and say, I'm ready to either let this go because it's not really mine. I'm ready to get support around this because I recognize this is somewhere I need support, and I'm okay with that, and I'm going to set myself up to be successful by getting that support. And what am I going to shed some more love on and just say, you know what, I'm working on it. And I love myself anyway, right? That, I think, is pretty powerful. Oh, all right. So we are now crossing over the 9 o'clock hour, Mountain Standard Time anyway. So I will wrap this up. But please send me your thoughts. You can do that via email. You can do that in the Facebook group. Once I close this down, you won't be able to do that through this chat function. So again, if you need to do that via email, then it's going to be jennifer@jennifernassi.com. You can reach me that way. If you're wanting to talk to me this week about some of the opportunities for more support that are going on right now, let's find a time to do that. And what I would say, I would say just email me, because on the page with the mentorship program, I have a link to my scheduling calendar, but I think it's got some times blocked off and it might be hard for you to get in this week. And you would really need to talk to me this week about it if it's something you're wanting to do. So just email me and we'll figure it out, okay? And know that I am thrilled and excited to have spent the evening with you. I hope that you're leaving feeling more peaceful, more inspired, more connected, more supported, and that we can start planning to maybe do this again next month. All right. Lots and lots of love to all of you. Kathy says, beautiful. Suzanne says, thank you for hosting. You are so incredibly welcome. Mwah. It's connecting with women like you who make my life totally light up. So thank you for being you. I see, oh, I'm getting emotional. I want you to know that I see all of you, all the bits of you, the bright, the shiny, the not shiny, all of those pieces, and I love all of you, okay? And we need all of you. We need all of those bits, and we need you to own all of them so that you can step into your power and you can go out there and do the amazing things that you want to do in the world and live that most full, most vibrant life that you deserve, okay? All right. Good night, ladies. Lots of love to you. Kathy, I will look forward to getting your email tomorrow. And good night.